this video we're going to look at the converse of Pythagoras theorem. So this is when we're trying to prove whether triangles are right angled or not. So for this first one here, we've got use the converse of Pythagoras theorem to prove that these triangles are right angled. So this is all in the practice page if you want to look at that afterwards. I'm going to do one example from here and then I'm going to do two past paper questions. So I'm going to take this one here in the corner so I can leave it in the corner here. So we've got 7mm, 24mm and 25mm. So when we're using the converse of Pythagoras theorem, we're just going to write it out first. The Pythagoras theorem. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. Now we're going to separate these out. We're going to do c squared on one side and we're going to do a squared plus b squared on the other side. We're going to see what we get there. So c squared will be 25 squared. So c squared equals 25 squared because c is the hypotenuse, which equals 625. So we've got 625mm for c squared. A squared plus b squared, that's going to be 7 squared plus 24 squared, which equals 7 squared plus 24 squared, 625mm. So from this we can see that c squared does equal a squared plus b squared, and because this is true, this must be a right angled triangle. So your sentence at the end, you say, by the converse of Pythagoras theorem, this triangle is right angled. And you can just say, as c squared equals a squared plus b squared. And actually, you've proven that that triangle there that we just had was a right angled triangle. Now that's the basics of using the converse of Pythagoras theorem. We're now going to look at two past paper questions from two National 5 exams. Right, so this first one says, diagram below shows the position of 3 towns. Low Town is due west of Midtown. The distance from Low Town to Midtown is 75 kilometres. Midtown to High Town 110. High Town to Low Town 85. Is High Town directly north of Low Town? So we do know that Low Town is due west of Midtown, so we know that that's north to west. So if we can check if this is a right angle there, then that would also be directly north. So the way we can check if this is a right angle is through the converse of Pythagoras theorem. So we've got c squared equals a squared plus b squared. That's our theorem. So just split it into two again. This side c squared and this side a squared plus b squared. So 110 squared for this one, which equals 12,100. And then a squared plus b squared, we've got 85 squared plus 75 squared, which equals 85 squared plus 75 squared. Oh, sorry. This one we've got 12,850. Both kilometres. So since c squared doesn't equal a squared plus b squared, we know that this is not a right angle, and therefore if that is west, this cannot be north. By the converse of Pythagoras, the converse of the converse of Pythagoras theorem, we know that High Town, just looking back to the question, High Town is not directly north of Low Town, as c squared does not equal a squared plus b squared. And that's you. Right, we're now going to look at one final one. So here it says triangles A and B are shown below. The triangles are placed together to form a larger triangle shown below. So you can't see that little bit. Is this larger triangle right angled? So it's just wondering whether this angle here is a right angle. So let's just mark in the lengths that we have for this larger triangle. This one will be 19 centimetres, that will be the same edge. This will be 8 centimetres. And the one along the bottom will be the 6 plus the 16, so 22 centimetres. And now we're going to use the converse of Pythagoras theorem to decide whether or not this is right angled. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Separate them out. So on one side we have c squared, on the other side we have a squared plus b squared. C here, the hypotenuse would be 22 if it is right angled. So 22 squared, which equals 484 centimetres. A squared plus b squared would be 8 squared plus 19 squared. Which is 425. And so since these do not match, we know it's not a right angled triangle. So we can then write by the converse of Pythagoras theorem we know that the large triangle is not right angled as c squared does not equal a squared plus b squared. And that's you for converse of Pythagoras theorem.